The beach house secret. Daniel Prescott was rinsing sand off his feet on the back porch when his daughter said the words that would end up cracking his whole life open like a shell. "Dad, we want the beach house as our wedding gift." He didn't answer right away. He set the hose down, watched the water darken the wood of the steps, and looked at Emma standing there in her sundress with her fiancé Marcus hovering a polite half-step behind her, both of them smiling like they'd already measured the windows for curtains. "The beach house," Daniel repeated. "For the wedding and then after, to keep. You never use it anymore, Dad. It just sits here." Emma's voice had that bright, reasonable tone she used when she'd already decided something and was only waiting for him to catch up. She'd used that tone since she was 11 years old. "Marcus and I talked about it. We want to get married on the beach, right where you and Mom did, and then we thought, why not just make it ours? You could keep a room. We wouldn't push you out or anything." "You wouldn't push me out?" As if the house were a negotiation, and not the last place on earth that still smelled like Clea. "No," Daniel said. The word came out flatter than he meant it to. Emma blinked. Marcus's smile faltered and slid sideways into something diplomatic. "No," Emma laughed, but it wasn't a real laugh. "Dad, come on. It's one house. You have the place in the city. You barely come out here anymore." "I come out here every month." "To sit in an empty house and stare at the water. That's not living in it, Dad, that's haunting it." She caught herself softened. "I didn't mean it like that." "I know what you meant." Daniel looked past her, out at the grey-green water folding over itself, the way it had every single day for the 31 years he'd owned this stretch of sand, and he felt something old and locked away shift in his chest, like a door easing off a rusted hinge. "The house isn't for sale, and it isn't for giving away," he said. "Not even to you." "It's not for sale. I'm not asking you to sell it. I'm asking you to give it to your only daughter as a wedding present, which is Dad. That's what parents do. That's normal. Kim's parents gave her and Todd a car. Ashley's parents put a down payment on their whole house. I'm asking for the one thing that actually means something, and you're acting like I asked you to burn it down." "Emma." "No, I want to understand this." She crossed her arms, and for a second she looked exactly like her mother had, 26 years ago, arguing with him in the exact same spot about something Daniel could no longer even remember. "You and Mom got married on this beach. You always said this house was going to be for me one day. You said that, so what changed?" Daniel felt Marcus's eyes on him, wary, the way you watch weather rolling in. He felt the porch boards under his bare feet, sun-warm, familiar. He felt 31 years pressing down on his sternum. "Sit down," he said. "Both of you. There's something I have to tell you, and I should have told you a long time ago." Emma didn't sit. She stood with her arms crossed and her chin up, bracing for a fight she thought she already understood the shape of. Marcus lowered himself onto the porch swing, slow, like a man trying not to spook something. Daniel sat on the step below them, elbows on his knees, and looked at the water because he couldn't look at his daughter's face while he said it. "You know your mother and I tried for years before we had you," he said. "I know, you told me. Miscarriages and then me, the miracle baby." Emma's voice had an edge of get to the point. "That's the story we told you," Daniel said. "It's not exactly what happened." The porch went very quiet. Even the gulls seemed to hold off. "Your mother had 4 miscarriages," Daniel went on. "That part's true. By the 5th pregnancy, her doctor told us if she carried again it could kill her. We were told in plain words that we would never have a biological child together, and we grieved that. Lord, we grieved that for 2 years. He rubbed a thumb along the old scar on his knuckle, a habit from thinking too hard. "This house, Emma, we bought this house in the middle of that grief. It was supposed to be the place where your mother and I figured out how to be a family of 2, just us. We came out here almost every weekend that first year, and slowly we made peace with it. And then you had me," Emma said, but her voice had gone smaller, uncertain now, hearing something underneath his words she didn't have a name for yet. "Then a 19-year-old girl named Renata Castilla walked up onto this porch, in the rain, 8 months pregnant, and asked if she could use our phone." Daniel closed his eyes for a second, and it was 31 years ago again, that easily, that fast, headlights in the storm, a girl's soaked hair plastered to her face, her hands shaking so hard she could barely hold the receiver. "She wasn't from around here. She was in some kind of trouble. I never learned all of it, and I never pushed. Your mother took one look at her and brought her inside, wrapped her in a blanket, made her tea. She stayed the night in the guest room because the roads had flooded. And she stayed the next night too because she had nowhere else to go, and there was something in your mother that just latched onto her. Onto both of you, really, because you were already there inside her." Emma had gone very still. 2 weeks later, Renata went into labor, right here in this house, 6 weeks early, because the hospital was 40 minutes out and the causeway was still closed from the storm. Your mother delivered you. I drove like a madman once the water went down enough, but by the time we reached the hospital, you were already in the world, screaming, and your mother was holding you like she'd been waiting her whole life to hold exactly you. Dad, Emma's voice cracked on the single syllable. Dad, what are you telling me? Daniel made himself look at her. Renata wasn't in a place, physically or otherwise, to raise a child. She told us that the very first night before she even knew she'd stay. She said she'd been planning to give the baby up through an agency in the city. No names, no contact, clean and final. But something about those 2 weeks in this house changed her mind about how she wanted to do it. She asked your mother point blank on your 3rd day of life if we would raise you, not through an agency, directly, her choosing us. Us choosing you. I'm adopted. Emma said the word like she was trying it out in a language she'd just learned. I'm not, you're not my. I am your father in every single way that has ever mattered, Daniel said, and for the first time his voice broke too. I have been your father since I held you in the hospital hallway while your mother slept, 6 years old, 6 hours old. And you gripped my finger so hard the nurse laughed and said you were going to be trouble. I am your father, your mother was your mother, that never once in 26 years felt like it needed an asterisk, but biologically, no. Renata Castillo is the woman whose body you came from, and this house is the place it happened. This is where your mother became your mother, in the most literal sense there is. This is where Renata sat right there. He pointed to the porch swing where Marcus sat frozen, half risen now, and asked us to be your parents, and we said yes before she'd even finished the sentence. Emma had one hand pressed flat against her sternum, like she was holding something in. Why, she got out, why wouldn't you just tell me this, my whole life? Why? Because Renata asked us not to, and your mother made me a promise, and I have kept every promise I ever made to that woman even after I lost her. Daniel's eyes were wet now and he didn't bother hiding it. There's more, Emma, sit down, please. This time she sat. Marcus reached for her hand and she let him take it, though her fingers stayed rigid. Renata didn't disappear, Daniel said. That's the part that matters right now, tonight on this porch, about this house. She left 3 days after you were born. She wasn't ready, she was barely 20, she had her own family troubles she never fully explained, but she asked for one thing before she left. Not money, not photographs. She asked if she could come back once a year to this house and see you from a distance. Not to speak to you, not to disrupt your life or hers. Just to see once a year that you were alive and well and loved. Your mother agreed. I agreed. We picked the 2nd Saturday in August every year because that's closest to your birthday, and this house was always empty that week for exactly that reason. We kept it clear on purpose. Emma's mouth opened. Something clicked behind her eyes, some memory surfacing. The woman on the dune, she whispered. There was always a woman on the dune, every summer. Every year on my birthday week there'd be some lady sitting way up on the far dune with a scarf on, just watching the water. I used to make up stories about her when I was little. I thought she was a ghost. I asked you about her once when I was maybe 9, and you told me she was probably just a bird watcher. I lied to you that day, Daniel said quietly. That was Renata. Every single year for 26 years, minus the 2 years she was overseas for work and sent a letter instead. She has watched you grow up from 300 yards away, Emma, because that was the only way she believed she was allowed to love you without taking anything from your mother and me. She's 51 now. She lives 4 hours from here. She never married, never had other children. As far as I know, you are the only child she has ever had. Why are you telling me this now? Emma said, and it came out anguished, not angry anymore. 26 years, Dad, 26 years, and you pick the day I ask you for a wedding gift to. Because you asked me to give this house away, Daniel said, and I couldn't say no without you understanding why no. This house isn't a piece of real estate to me, Emma. It's not even primarily the place your mother and I got married, though God knows that's precious enough. It's the place where you began, twice, in a way. It's where a frightened girl became brave enough to trust 2 strangers with the only thing she had left to give. It's where your mother, who could never carry a child of her own body to term, became a mother anyway, completely, ferociously, for the rest of her life. And it's the one fixed point on the map where a woman who loves you and has never once asked for anything back from you knows exactly where to stand, once a year, to see that you're okay. He reached into his shirt pocket. He'd been carrying it for 3 days, since Emma first mentioned the engagement, some instinct telling him this conversation was coming, and pulled out a small brass key, worn smooth. This opens the cedar chest in the attic. There are 26 letters in there, Emma. One from Renata every year you didn't get to see her, plus the years she came in person, when she'd still leave one on the porch rail after dark, under stone, so we'd find it in the morning after she'd already driven off. Your mother read every single one before I did. She used to sit right where you're sitting now, and cry, and then laugh, because Renata has a hell of a sense of humor, actually, in her letters. Your mother always said the two of you would have liked each other. Emma was crying openly now, silently, the kind of crying that comes from somewhere too deep for sound. If I sold this house, or handed the deed to you and Marcus to renovate and make your own, and Emma, I want you to have a wedding here, I want that more than almost anything, but if the house itself stopped being mine to keep watch over, then that arrangement ends. Not because you do anything wrong, because it's not really my secret to hand off along with the keys. It's Renata's arrangement with your mother kept in trust by me. She's due to come again in 11 days. If this house belongs to strangers who bought the story along with the deed, or even to you and Marcus starting your own life in it, she has no way of knowing where to stand anymore. 26 years of one Saturday in August gone, without her ever getting to say goodbye to it properly, without either of you ever getting the chance to decide together whether you even want to keep going. For a long time nobody spoke. The tide was coming in, that steady unhurried sound it always made, indifferent to the fact that an entire family history had just rearranged itself on the back porch. I want to meet her, Emma finally said. Her voice was raw but steady. Renata, I want Dad, I need to meet her, properly, not from 300 yards away. I know, Daniel said. I think she's wanted that for a long time too and been too afraid to ask for it. She was always terrified of taking 1 inch more than what she'd agreed to. That's the kind of woman she is. And you'll help me set it up. I've had her number in my phone for 26 years and never once used it for anything but the arrangements for her visits, Daniel said. I think it's time that changed. Marcus, who had said almost nothing this whole time, finally spoke. For what it's worth, he said carefully, I don't need this house to be a wedding gift. I just wanted to marry Emma on a beach that mattered. Sounds like this one matters more than I understood. Emma let out a wet, startled laugh, half sob. She looked at her father, and something in her face had shifted, not anger anymore, not even hurt exactly, but a kind of stunned, expanding tenderness, like a photograph developing. You kept this for 26 years, she said. You and Mom both, you just carried it, alone. We weren't alone, Daniel said. We had each other. And in a strange way, we had Renata too once a year, even if she never knew how much those Saturdays meant to us. Your mother used to say that woman gave us the greatest gift of our lives and then had the grace to disappear so we'd never feel like we were borrowing you. His voice thickened. I couldn't give this house away, Emma, not because I don't trust you with it. Because giving it away would have meant deciding, alone, on your mother's behalf, that the promise was over. I wasn't willing to make that choice without you in the room. Emma slid off the porch swing and sat down on the step beside her father, the way she used to when she was small, shoulder against his arm, watching the same water he'd been watching all evening. Can we still get married here? She asked. Even if it's not, even if it stays yours. It was always going to be yours in every way that matters, Daniel said. I just needed you to understand what matters means on this particular piece of sand before I handed you the map. He put his arm around her, felt her lean into it the way she had 1,000 times since she was 6 hours old, and gripping his finger in a hospital hallway. You can get married on this beach in this house, every year for the rest of your life if you want. I'll write it into the deed myself, so it's never a question again after I'm gone. But some doors in that house, the cedar chest, the guest room where you were born, the second Saturday in August, those don't get renovated. Those stay exactly as they are. Some things you inherit whole, Emma. You don't get to remodel them into something more convenient. Emma reached up and wiped her face with the heel of her hand, laughing and crying at once. I called Renata's Saturday visits the ghost on the dune my whole childhood, she said. God, Dad, all those years I thought I was making up a story. I was watching the truest thing in my entire life and didn't even know it. She'll be so happy to hear you say that, Daniel said. I think she's been waiting 26 years for someone to finally see her standing there. Out past the dune, the sun had begun to drop toward the water, turning the whole bay the color of a struck match. And for the first time in longer than Daniel could remember, the beach house didn't feel like a place he was guarding. It felt at last like a place he could finally, fully share.